Hey everyone, and welcome. So today's video is going to be all about Lightning Web Components, and more specifically, this video is probably the first video that will be part of my Lightning Web Components development playlist, so feel free to check that out in the description box below. And while you're at it, consider subscribing. I would greatly appreciate it. And also, feel free to leave any comments down below if you have any topics you want me to cover or any questions, anything of concern. Feel free to leave it down below. All right, so let's jump into it. So for today's video, we're going to make use of Scratch orgs to create a basic Lightning Web Component. So just so we can talk about it. If you're not very familiar with that, consider watching this video that I just recently posted. It goes over how to set up a dev hub and the Scratch org itself. If you need more help, there is also a playlist that I have right here called Salesforce Lightning Development Setup that basically goes over how to get everything set up on your computer so you can start creating Lightning Web Components. So with that said, let's jump into our VS Code. And here, the first thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and just create a project. So I'm going to hit Command-Shift-P because I'm on a Mac. It would be Control-Shift-P to bring up the command palette on Windows. And we're just going to choose this option, Create Project with Manifest. And I'm just going to use a standard template. And we will call this LWC Basics. And one thing I haven't really pointed out, but that I should, is I'm pretty sure the project name needs to be in camel case. So basically the first letter of the word is lowercase and everything else, the first word of that is capitalized. So for example, L is lowercase, and I guess technically these would be capitalized, but I'm treating that as one word. So basics is the second word and that's capitalized. Moving on, I will click enter. After a few seconds, the command runs and our project structure is created. I'm going to just exit out of these errors. They don't really mean anything to us. And now we have our project structure on the left-hand side. Like I said, I want to make use of a Scratch org, so I'm going to do that next. I'm going to first ensure that I authorize a dev hub, because I don't think I've done that so far. This one, let's just call this Trailhead Dev Hub. I don't know if there is a naming convention that you have to follow with dev hubs, but I'm just going to call it this for now. Let's click enter, let the thing run. And it's going to basically ask me to log in. So I'll go ahead and do that. So after I put in my credentials, I basically just redirected to the setup on my Trailhead org, which is great. So once that is done, let's go back to our VS Code. And now we can go ahead and create the Scratch org. So again, Command-Shift-P, and we are going to run the command called create a default Scratch org. And I'm just going to use the default project Scratch org definition. And the name you want to give this, we will just call this same thing, LWC Basics. I think that's fine. And I'm going to set the duration to just 1 day since I'm only going to use this for the demo today. That should be fine. So we'll click enter and the command will run to set up our Scratch org. And after a few seconds or so, we should have our Scratch org set up that will allow us to now begin creating a Lightning Web Component. All right, and after some time, the command ran successfully. And we are now connected to our Scratch org. To open it up, we can just click on this little window icon on the bottom left-hand side of our VS Code to click Open Org. And there we go. As you can see in the URL, we have this funky looking name, Customization Innovation 20 Dev ED. And then we know it's a Scratch org because it says Scratch on it. Cool. All right, so that's set up. Now let us actually create the Lightning Web Component. So I'm going to run one more command. This one will be create Lightning Web Component. As you can see here, create Lightning Web Component. And the name you want to give this is, I guess we'll just do the same thing, LWC Basics. Not really a great name, but that is what we're going to cover today. I'm going to just drop it in the default project directory. And there we go. After we run that, we now have, if we look on the right-hand side, under the LWC folder, we have an LWC Basics folder, and then inside of that we have an HTML, a JavaScript, and .xml file. I'll go over each one of these in a little bit, but for now, let's just jump right into it. So for today, I want to cover variables, constants, and I guess properties, which is technically just a variable, and how we can write stuff in our JavaScript and then reference it in our HTML, and then perhaps package this LWC nicely, and then maybe put it onto like a Lightning app in our Scratch org. So yeah, not going to be too crazy today, just sticking to the basics, and we'll go from there. So first thing I want to cover is probably how to define a constant variable, basically meaning we want to define a variable that is not going to change. So, it's constant. It's going to stay the same. You'll never update it again. To do that, outside of our class right here, we can go ahead and use the const keyword to denote that it's a constant. And then we can give it a name, something like perhaps app name right here. And then inside of quotes, we can just give it a name, like maybe like, I guess we can pretend this is a to-do app. So we can just do to-do app right here. And then inside of our actual class itself, if we want to define variables, which I think they're just called properties in Lightning Web Components. So I'll use the term properties from now on, but I'm pretty sure even in the Salesforce documentation, they say that variables and properties can be pretty much used interchangeably. So, take that for what it is. But anyways, if we want to create a property within our class to be able to hold some data or just reference it in our HTML, we just use the name, we just give a name that we want that variable or property to be called. We don't have to use the const keyword or the variable keyword or the let keyword. You can just name it. So I'm going to create a property called message, and we are going to set this equal to something. And I'm going to set this to something simple like hi. And then this is and then I'm going to do a space. And then here, I want to reference the constant that we created up above. So I can just say app name. And basically this message property will now contain this stuff in it. Hi, this is and then it will reference the constant up here. Alternatively, since this is JavaScript, I believe we can make use of the tick symbol. I forget the technical term for it, but basically you can use the backticks on your keyboard. It should be next to the numbers on the top somewhere. And this basically allows you to not have to write the plus to concatenate variables. What you could do is basically just write as you normally do. Hi, this is and then in curly brackets, you could define your variable like this. And I'm getting red because I didn't use the equals. And technically, I wouldn't want to use the same name for our property. So I guess it could be message 2. Oh, and one more thing I forgot. We actually need to use the dollar symbol as well to denote. Basically, that's just a syntax to denote that we actually want to reference a property, and not just a text as well. And I'm pretty sure this is called a template literal, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, template literal. But anyways, just so for now, it doesn't really matter which one we use. I guess we'll just stick with this one because it looks kind of nice. A little bit nicer, I guess. So just know it's the same thing, just another way of writing things that JavaScript provides for us. So that is basically a property right there. I guess we can go ahead and write some more stuff, since I guess we're technically doing a to-do app because I gave that as an app name for the constant. So maybe let's write another property like stuff to do. And for this one, let's use an array. So again, to denote an array, you use the square brackets. And in here, I can put stuff down. So I'm going to say one thing we have to do is study. Another one is maybe like clean. Then maybe go to the gym. I'm kind of just writing things at random here. Cook. And then lastly, let's go to sleep. So simple. Looks like I misspelled the word study. So let's fix that up. And then perhaps let's also, I guess we can go over objects as well. So let's have like a little about me section or property. So about me, and then we'll make this an object. So this is the squirrely brackets or the weird looking brackets. Not really sure what they're called. I'm going to go ahead and click enter. So it just opens it up for us. And then in here, it's basically just a key value pair. So basically it's like a map, if you can kind of think of it in Apex. So the key for this one is going to be job, I guess. And then we'll just say the job is sfdev. That's what we do here. We have a hobby. What is our hobby? Let's just say we do naps. And we have a goal. What is our goal? Well, I guess maybe like something like 10,000 subscribers on YouTube would not be a bad goal to have. So, hey, perhaps subscribe to my channel because that's the goal I have. Thanks, I guess. So yeah, this is an object right here. It's just a key value pair mapping. Above is an array, as you can see there, basically just a list of things, a list of elements. if you want to be technical about it. Then I think that's good for now. So we have from the top a constant that we define outside of our class, then some properties. One of them is just like, I guess, a string, the other one's an array or list, and the other one, and the last one is just an object, key value pairs. Pretty simple. So yeah, not too bad. I'm gonna go ahead and hit save, and I guess let's start working on our HTML. So this is, I'm kind of going in with the assumption that you guys are kind of familiar with web development a little bit, or at least have done Visualforce in the past. But if not, the way to think about it is HTML is basically the skeleton of how a web page is going to look like. JavaScript is like the logic layer to it, so basically dictating what is going to go on the skeleton or how it's going to interact with the user, I guess. And I guess while we're at it, we don't really have it looks like we don't have a file here, but you could create one with the extension CSS that basically will tell the HTML what it's supposed to look like. So, you know, the basic three, the JavaScript, the HTML, and the CSS. But like I said, we'll go more in depth as we make more videos, which will all be part of that playlist that I mentioned at the beginning. So in our HTML, it's not going to look great, but we will get used to referencing those properties that we created in our JavaScript, and then eventually we'll probably create a video that goes over styling and how Lightning should be styled, or can be styled rather. So just to start, we're going to create a div tag, and then inside of the div tag, let's create a paragraph tag. And then inside of that paragraph tag, let's go ahead and reference something from our JavaScript. So to reference a variable, we use the squirrely brackets again. And then basically we just reference it by the variable, the property name. So for example, let's just grab the message one right here, and we can just plop down right there. And that pretty much will let us, it will tell the HTML to grab something from the JavaScript and then just put it right there onto the screen for us to look at. So let's go ahead and do the same thing for the other ones. So the stuff to do one, and then what was the last one? I think it was the about me. So the about me right here. And I forgot to put the second one in curly brackets, so we'll do that. And same thing for about me. So not too bad. Let's go ahead and hit save on that. And now I guess we basically have like the bare bones basics of our Lightning Web component. It's pretty much done to be deployed and shown off to our user, I guess. But before we can do that, we actually have to go into our meta.xml file. And in here, we have to do a few things. So first, if we actually want to make use of this Lightning Web component in our org in any sense, whether you want to put it on a record page, or it's meant to be put on an app, or I forget what the other ones are. Basically, if you want it to be usable in some part of your organization, we'll have to set the is exposed to true. And then as well as that, we also have to create another tag. This is called targets. And then within the targets, inside of here, we create one called target. And basically inside of the target, sounds kind of weird when you say it a bunch of times. Inside of the target tag, you then right here will specify where this Lightning Web component can be used. So I think I will want to put this on just a Lightning app. So I'm going to say Lightning __ app page. And basically when we deploy this Lightning Web component, Salesforce will look at this metadata, and it will know that we can only use this for the app page. Now this stuff that we just went over, I'm not just writing this at random. There is actually pretty good documentation that I will link down in the description box below as well. But just for now, you can see here, it is called XML configuration file elements, and you can see here basically all the stuff you can do. The one we had just talked about is the targets one. So as we can see here, if we go down enough, we should see one for Lightning app pages, which is the one that we did, and basically says it enables a component to be used on an app page in Lightning App Builder. So pretty self-explanatory, I think. Yeah, so that explains how I got to that portion. So with that done, let's go ahead and try to deploy it to our Scratch org, and then hopefully we don't have any issues. So I'm going to run another command, Command-Shift-P, Control-Shift-P, or if you don't like keyboard shortcuts, you can, I think, go to view on the toolbar up top, and just click on command palette. That brings you to the same location. From there, I'm going to type in push to find the push source to default org one. We're going to click on that and hope that there are no errors, which I don't think there are. As you can see here, it says it created LWC basics, and it looks like it went through just fine. So let's go to our scratch org here. And I think what I'm going to do, just so we can see this Lightning Web component, is we'll just create a Lightning app and then just add it to that app as well, just to kind of keep things clean, I guess. So in the quick find under setup, let's go ahead and type in, I think it's like Lightning app or something. Yeah, Lightning app builder. We'll click on that, and then there should be a button, or actually I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's type in apps and then click on app manager. And then at the top right here, let's go ahead and create a new Lightning app. And then this one, let's just call this like, I don't know, to-do app, even though it's not really a to-do app at all, but you know, you get the gist. So just give it an app name, and the developer name auto-populates. We'll click on next. And then we'll just, for now, just kind of skip over these things and not do anything. For the profiles, let's at least make sure that our system administrator profile is there. Well, whatever profile you are in your system, which probably would be sysadmin, perhaps, I'm not sure. But I know it is for me, so I will go ahead and select that. And once my app is built, now I'm going to go ahead and go to the Lightning app builder in our quick setup, and then let's just go ahead and create a new one. And we want to make use of an app page because that's what we created our Lightning Web component for. So I'll go ahead and click next, and then for the name, we'll just call this LWC basics again, just to keep things simple. We'll click next, and then here we have a bunch of different options on how we want to make our app look like. I think I'm going to just do like a one region, just a one thing. We'll click finish, and there we go. So now in this page, which is called the Lightning App Builder, we can basically add stuff from the standard components, or if you see here under the custom section, we have one called Lightning Web Component Basics, which is the thing that we literally just created. So we can basically, oh, I double clicked on accident. I'm going to click and drag this to the canvas, and then we'll just click on save, and we'll click on activate. And then here it's going to ask us for some things. I'm going to go and hover over the Lightning Experience page, and basically the to-do app right here, we're going to go ahead and add that to the app, and we're going to go ahead and click save, basically just so we can actually use it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hit save one more time just to make sure our work actually got saved. Let's go ahead and back out now. And to access the app, let's go ahead and click on the app launcher. And this one should be called to-do app. So let's go ahead and click on this, and we should be taken to our to-do app. And as you can see here, it doesn't look too great because we don't have any styling. It just kind of, the text was thrown on the HTML page. But as you can see here, we have the text that we had defined in our HTML. So, you know, hi, this is the to-do app, which is the constant that we defined in our JavaScript. Here we have our array, which just basically dumped out. And then the last one is kind of funky looking. It just says object. Basically, that's just the object that we have defined, which if we go back to our JavaScript, it is this thing right here. It's just being outputted as an object because if we go into our HTML, we just basically said just display what it is. But since it's an object and we haven't, you know, grabbed any properties off of it, it's just being displayed as this right here. So let's actually go ahead and fix this up a little bit, the object thing. To do so, in our HTML, what we can go ahead and start to do is, let's go ahead and take off these brackets right here, and I guess we'll make it look like just a title. So just a static about me title, even though it's just a paragraph tag. And then in here, let's go ahead and create some another paragraph tag. And in here, we will do something like define what the job is. And then we'll use the squirrely brackets again to basically say we want to grab a variable. So we'll just grab the about me, but then I'm going to use the dot notation to tell the HTML that I want to grab a property off of here, or rather a key off of here. So we'll grab the job key and basically just plop it there, which basically tells our HTML that we want to display the job key from the about me object. And we'll go ahead and do that for the other ones as well. So basically just going to go into copy and paste a few times, copy hobby, paste it here, copy the goal, which you guys should definitely subscribe. And we'll just change these as well. Goal. This is not really part of the, I'm just adding an identifier just to kind of tell the user what it is that, you know, they're looking at after the colon, and then like that to make it look correct. So basically in the About Me section of our HTML, we have a job, and then that job is being pulled off from the About Me object through the key, through the job key. Same thing for hobby, same thing for goal. And the way it works is, like I said, we have this object called About Me. We are using the dot notation to say, give me the value of the job key. So this is the job, or this is the key called job, and here's the value. This is what will be displayed, the sfdev. So I hope that makes sense. I don't think I'm explaining this too well, but let me know if you have any questions down in the comment section below, and I'll get back to you guys. So just by doing this here, now if we were to go ahead and deploy one more time, so push source to default org, a few seconds, and once it's done, if we go back to our Scratch org and we just refresh the app, we should now see here, we have the About Me section, and then we can now see what those values from that About Me object were, or rather what the values of those keys were. So we have the job, which is sfdeb, we have the hobby, naps, and then our goal of 10,000 subs on YouTube. So that's how you would go and start to display objects from JavaScript. One more thing I want to kind of go over is the array one. So if we wanted to do something similar, like how we did for the objects, and basically try to, instead of just showing the entire array, maybe just show like the first, the first or second index. Well, we can't really do something like, we can't do something like this, which we might do like in Apex or Java, which is basically just give us the first index of this array. As you can already see here, the thing is complaining at us that we can't do that. And we won't even be able to deploy this to our org. We will just get a straight up error. So if you only wanted to display like one or a certain element in the list, or maybe you actually want to display all of them, but like you want to have each one be in its own tag or HTML tag, well, you will need to make use of an iterator. And I will quickly show you guys that, but very quickly, just to go over, here's the documentation for this. Basically, just to render a list, you have a few options. We can make use of the for each or the iterator directives, and basically just looks like this, right? Let's go ahead and just kind of copy this code right here. So this is what we're interested in. Basically, we're going to make use of a template tag. Don't worry too much about that for now. It's just a tag like any other tag in HTML, like a div tag or anything else, but it might have a little bit of a special meaning when it comes to styling for Salesforce. But anyways, so what we're most interested in is this for each right here, and the for item, and then the key thing, which I'll explain. But for now, let's just go ahead and grab this, and we're gonna go ahead and paste this. We'll paste it right here, and now we can start going through it. So what it's saying here, it's pretty similar to how it's done in Visualforce, like through a table or something. But what we're gonna say is we want to iterate through something, right? And the thing we want to iterate through is not contacts, because we don't have contacts. We want to iterate through the stuff to do array. And let me go ahead and delete this. Or actually, instead of deleting this, let's go ahead and kind of make this a title for the bottom, which will be stuff to do, just so it's kind of concise for us. Okay, but anyways, so what we're saying here is we want to iterate through this stuff to do array, which is a JavaScript variable or property. And for each of those things that we want to iterate through, or for each element rather that we want to iterate through in that array, we can give it that specific thing that we're iterating through at that current moment in time a name. So here we'll just call this stuff. Essentially, when we start to loop through, we loop through each element one by one, right? So study, then clean, then go to gym, cook, sleep, so on and so forth. Well, this stuff right here is the current iteration, like how I said. So when the for loop starts, the current iteration will be study, and then it will be clean, so on and so forth. This contains that specific element that we can then use. So this stuff is the I guess technically variable that we will reference in here. So for the key, we can just basically just put down stuff right here. Now, this is kind of important. The key, I forget if it's like a property or attribute. It's an attribute for the list, the list item. This key thing needs to be unique. So basically here we don't have a problem, right? Because everything in our element, or sorry, everything in our array is unique. Each element is unique, right? So we only have study once in this array. But if we had it twice, then things won't break. But this key thing, it's kind of crucial for like behind the scenes rendering. Essentially, Salesforce and I guess the web browser kind of expects each element that we're going to be kind of putting on the screen to have a unique key. That way, if something on this, like something that the user does changes the things in our array, the browser knows which thing to render, right? And I know I'm kind of getting like a little bit too specific for our first video, but since we're already here, I guess you can kind of like pretend, let's say this was just a list, right? And the user went ahead and changed hobby to something like eat food. Then the browser, if it had a unique key for each item, it would know to only update this part of the browser and not do a whole refresh, which can kind of be expensive computationally, and can take a little bit more time. So I hope we're not getting too crazy for now, but essentially when you see key, make sure that it is a unique element. And for now, because each element in our array is unique, we don't really have to worry about it too much. So like I said, key, make unique. So inside of here, we just want to, I guess, just throw that entire thing there. So we will say stuff. Pretty simple. We just want to display stuff, which is a element in the array. Okay, so let's go ahead and now deploy this. So push source to org. Hopefully we don't have any errors. There we go. Let's go ahead and refresh this. And now things should look a little different. As you can see here, now we have this in a list item because we're using the li tag, which is just a list item. But as you can see here, basically what happened is we took the array and we iterated through each item, and each item got put in its own list item. So not too crazy, but that's how you do that. One more thing that I just thought of that we can do before we kind of wrap this video up is an array of objects, which is kind of interesting. So what we could do is let's create another property, and we'll call this friends. And we're going to set this to equal to an array. But within the array, we're going to make use of an object, kind of like how we have here, right? So we can basically have an array of objects. So I'll just make 2. I'm going to press enter just to indent it a little bit. And now I will make use of a key value pair called ID, and I'll make sure to make these unique across each object, just so that when we're iterating through and we're doing the for each in our HTML, we have something unique that we can use for our key pair or for our key. And anyways, moving on. So let's have a name key, and we'll just call this person Joe. And then perhaps they also have a job, and that job will be, let's say it's classified. We cannot know. And they have a hobby, and their hobby, I guess, can be like video games or something. I'm not really sure what Joe does. Okay. For the second friend that we have, also give it a name. And this one can be called maybe like Kate or something. Job, this person is a teacher, and their hobby is, I don't know, maybe like something like reading or something. So not too important, but as you can see here, we've now created a property within our LWC basics class. It is an array of objects. So each array has an element of an object. So not too bad. I'm going to go ahead and put a semicolon, even though I'm pretty sure in JavaScript, semicolons are no longer necessary, or at least modern JavaScript, it's not necessary. But anyways, so the whole point of doing this is because I basically want to show you guys how to display this in the HTML. So in the HTML, we can go ahead and start writing this out. So to start with, I will create a paragraph tag, and this will be a section for about my friends. Under here, we're basically going to do the same thing here. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy and paste this because I'm too lazy to write it out. We want to iterate now through the friends array, and we're going to just give it a name of friend for each element in the array that we're iterating through. For the key now, I'm going to go ahead and pull off a property from the object. We're going to use the ID because that hopefully should be truly unique across each element that we have in our array. So to do that, I will use the dot notation to then pull off the ID property, or ID key, which for the first iteration will have an ID of 1, and then for the second one, it will have an ID of 2, so on and so forth. So pretty simple stuff. Then inside of here, maybe we can say they have a name, and their name will be their, I guess, just the name, so the name key from the object. And maybe we should also display their job, so we'll do that. So friend, grab the job key, and then lastly, what should we do? Well, we just have one left, so we'll do hobby. And then again, use these squirrely brackets, and then the dot notation to grab the hobby key from that object. So I think that's pretty self-explanatory. I know I'm kind of rushing through it, but kind of because we already went through it here. But essentially, I guess just to recap this, we want to iterate through the friends array, which is this right here. The friends array is an array of objects. So within this, we have this object has ID, name, job, and hobby keys. These are the values right here after the colon. And basically, once we have the object, we cannot pull off the properties from it. So we have ID, name, job, and hobby. Hopefully that makes sense. So one more time, let's push this to the org, or the Scratch org. And if we don't have any errors, things should have gone fine. I'm going to go ahead and refresh this now. And as we can see here, we have about my friends. And yes, indeed worked just fine. So we have all the values that we pulled off from that object that came from that array. So hopefully this wasn't too bad of a tutorial where I'm just rambling on and not making sense. But like I said, this was the first video of my new LWC development playlist. If you found this useful, consider subscribing, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.